Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
Russell, good morning to you.
Good morning, Neil. How are you, mate?
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Rob sends his apologies, unfortunately. We probably should tell people the reality of it is, unfortunately, you are on an aeroplane at this very moment, so we're pre-recording it, and Rob, unfortunately, couldn't be here. Russell, you've been on the show a few times, and we love to have a chat about your music career and so on. Well, there's a specific reason today for getting you back, but a question popped into my mind the other day, and I thought, I'll just ask you this question. If you could do a duet with, I think Tony Bennett did a duet album with a whole stack of people, who do you reckon would be your number one choice to have a chat, to sing a song with and record?
Oh, gee, it is so hard because there are so many of my favourite singers. Paul Rodgers, I would love to do a duet with. I'd love to do a duet with Paul Carrick, Marvin Gaye if he was alive, and Sam Cooke. Who else? John Lee Hooker. I'd love to sing with him. He was, what a voice.
Yeah.
The list is endless. And some of the women, Renee Gayer, if she was still around, we did one duet and it was wonderful. She was wonderful to sing with. What a talent she was. So there's the list is endless, Neil. That's me asking you what's your favourite food. And you go, well, I like chips. And then you go, well, hang on, I like potato chips as well. Well, hang on, I really like Thai food. Yeah, it's one of those things that's it's a hard one to pin down, that one. It's like someone saying, how many people would you pick for dinner if you only could pick 4?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry I asked the question now because I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. But
I've gone off on a tangent. Sorry.
No, absolutely not. No, but I tell you what, when the album comes out called Russell Morris Duets, I at least want a credit on the album for the idea.
Yeah, okay.
And in fact, if you stretch it out to triples, I'm sure Rob and I wouldn't mind doing a trio with you. I don't know what we'd sing, but it wouldn't be very good, I suspect.
Always look on the bright side of life.
Yeah, that'd be it, because Rob and I do a very mean whistle, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So Russ, the reason we've got you on is because Rob and I saw you at the Piano Bar last year, and excitedly, you're coming back to this part of the world a couple of times in the next couple of weeks. First up, next Saturday, the 8th of April, you're part of some kind of, I'll call it a festival event, down at Torquay.
Yes, I think... my good buddy Daryl Braithwaite's on. I think there's a few bands on. I think maybe Joe Camilleri. I'm guessing though now, so you'd probably know more than I do. I'm one of those people, I frustrate my band because they go, well, where are we staying? And I go, well, I don't know. I haven't looked, So I only look 2 weeks ahead usually.
Oh, okay. Well, and given that we're pre-recording this, that's acceptable. Otherwise, people be going, on this next Saturday. Well, let me tell you that.
I don't really look ahead. I know I'm staying in Melbourne.
Oh, it's a good start.
I know that. That particular day we've got 2 shows. We've got to drive from Torquay to Melbourne to do a show in the Blues Festival.
You're going to be a busy man with a raspy voice, I suspect, by the end of it. Well, the event's called Sunset Sounds, and this is the list in the order that they're listed. I'm not playing favourites here, you understand. Daryl Braithwaite, the Black Sorrows, a bloke called Russell Morris, Richard Clapton, Ross Wilson, Wendy Matthews, Eurogliders, Jack Jones, the Shantuzis, and Matt Finish. That's a fair lineup.
It'll be good. It'll be everyone on there is really good because we just did a Sunset Sounds 2 weeks ago, and it was that lineup, and the crowd went crazy. They just loved every minute of it and every act. Sometimes you'll go to an outdoor festival and someone will be on and the crowd is sort of milling around and talking amongst themselves, which is really awful for the opening acts.
Yes.
from the moment this show started, the crowd were engaged, and they were really. It was a great show.
And arguably the least well known of that group, if you like, is Jack Jones, because he was obviously part of Southern Sons and so forth. I reckon I saw you and Jack and two others who I'm testing my memory here at the Opera House in 2016 playing two Beatles albums. It was Sgt. Pepper and Abbey Road.
That's right, yeah. And, Jack now is becoming a lot more well-known as well. He's a superstar talent. He's in our band. We've got a band called the Caprettos, which is Daryl Braithwaite, Jack Jones, Ray Thistlethwaite, and myself. And we've just been doing all like state theatres, and we did Hamer Hall in Melbourne, we did QPAC, all the really big venues. And it's gone from strength to strength to strength. And a lot of people now are going, how come Jack has slipped under the radar? He is so good. He really is. He's like one of the best guitar players this country's ever had, and also one of the best singers.
Because he was really big, early 90s would have been his era, wouldn't it? And then he sort of just disappeared, didn't he?
Yes. But if you hear as soon as he starts playing his songs, you go, oh, I know that song, yeah. And the crowd just go nuts, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think actually Ray might have been part of that group at the Opera House in 2016 as well. Would that have been right?
No, I don't think he did that one. Ray didn't do that one.
Okay.
No.
There you go. See, my memory's turned to fall apart on me there. The following Saturday, that's Saturday week, 2 weeks from today, you are going to be at the revamped Palais in Geelong. That's just you by yourself, obviously with your band. But will that be a similar event to the Piano Bar last year?
Yes, that'll be very similar. We'll play as an entertainer. You've got to play. As an artist, you wear two hats. You wear one where you write all these songs, and you've got all these you're trying to forge new paths for what you're trying to do musically, and then the other one you've got to put another hat on when you go and entertain at a venue, because people pay money to come and see you. So you don't want to get up and play all your brand new songs and have people leave disappointed, going, well, I wanted to hear so you try and do a cross section of everything.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to pay money and come and see me and walk away and go, oh, why didn't he play? Oh, I wish he had have done. So I try to do as much as I can of everything.
Because I guess the other thing is then, you've obviously got a catalogue that's, quite broad, from your Sharkmouth stuff right back to the early days of, somebody's image and all that kind of stuff that you've done in between. I guess there's always going to be someone who's got a favourite Russell Morris song who's going to go, that was the one he didn't play. But I guess, at the same time, you don't want to be constrained to playing Russell Morris' greatest hits.
That's right. You just become then you become a sort of a golden oldies sort of thing. That sort of happened when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I was given a gold aria. It's sort of, people go, oh, what a great honour, but it galvanised my thinking, because I thought, this is like working for AMP and they're giving me a golden watch. I might get a rocking chair and some slippers. So I decided, because I hadn't been doing anything, I thought, damn this. So I did an album, which was Sharkmouth, which was incidentally the biggest album I've ever had in my career. That sold 120,000, won an ARIA, went platinum, and so it was something. And I'd always realised, but I'd never had any success with albums I'd tried to produce. But I'd always realised that you've got to keep trying to plough new ground and try and plant different seeds, because otherwise you get caught in an eddy and you keep going round and around and around. Then it becomes incredibly boring for you, and then the audience might love it, but after a while they're going to grow tired of it. You've got to give someone something fresh to eat.
Well, I think it was Mike Rudd who wrote a song called "Play Us One You Know," which was a bit of a protest song back to the audience who used to always demand to hear "I'll Be Gone." In fact, I went to a gig with him out at Moonee Valley, I reckon it was, back in the days when the late great Bill Putt was still with us, and one of the guys came up to them at the break and said, "Can you play 'I'll Be Gone, because I have to go?" And Mike being Mike tended to take the P155 out of the poor bloke and wished him well as he walked out the door with his family. But come on, mate.
Yeah, it is a bit of a, people do, I sort of understand from the punter's point of view. And what I try to do is try to play a really well-known song, then I will slip something in that's maybe new, and I'll explain what the song is. I learned a really big lesson with that when I was in America. I lived over there, and I loved Chicago. And I went to see Chicago in an outdoor festival, and they were managed by a guy, I think his name was Guercio or something, I can't remember. But this guy was a bass player, and he also managed the Beach Boys. Okay. So the Beach Boys were supporting Chicago that night, and they went on first. And it was one of those times when the Beach Boys were really, really firing. They'd had a really hiatus, and they just started to come back, and they had that Copacabana song. I can't remember what it was called. Kokomo, yeah. Yep. And were just about to record that. So they had plenty of vibe under their belt. They got up, and it was like they played 21 number one songs in a row. And the crowd went absolutely berserk. It was unbelievable. They had to tell them to sit down in the stands because there was movement in the stands, and they'd close the show. People didn't stop jumping up and down. Wow. Then Chicago went on and proceeded to play all the tracks off their brand new album. And people were leaving in droves. It was, they should have just opened up with 25 or 6-4, whatever it is. It was one of their big hits. Yeah. Saturday, but they did. They just played unknown, and people started to leave. So I thought, gee, there's a lesson.
Yeah, and I guess it's getting the balance right, isn't it? You don't want to be. I mean, with all due respect, and I think I've been seeing you 5 or 6 times over the last little while, and love coming along because I know I'm going to get that mix. But if I just wanted to hear the real thing, Sweet Sweet Love, Wings of an Eagle, I'll buy a CD.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's we try to give people an experience, which is good. I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's interesting to launch a new song for people to sort of listen to. It's always interesting to see how they're going to react.
So with the Sunset Sounds, obviously with a lineup like you've got next Saturday at Torquay, we're not going to see a 2-hour presentation by Russell Morris. Roughly how long are you on stage for at that sort of event?
I think I'm only on stage for 30 minutes.
Okay.
So it's just like that's when you do play sort of the hits. You just go bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, audiences at festivals need to be satisfied immediately, or otherwise you can lose them en masse. So you really have to hit them between the eyes in a situation like that.
Otherwise, again, going back to my CD analogy, it becomes 50 years of Australian rock and roll, doesn't it? That it'd just be a bit of a colour card of songs because you can't afford to do the sort of new stuff that you were talking about.
That's right, yeah. The audience fall asleep, yeah.
Well, slipping into full marketing mode here now, Russell, because you love the folk of Geelong and the Surf Coast so much, you're prepared to drive all the way from Melbourne down to Torquay to play to them for half an hour. That's kind of the message we're putting across, isn't it?
Well, it's not so different from when I was young. I used to drive down there every single weekend. First to Torquay. I used to go surfing at Torquay, and then I did a lot of my days and time at Point Road Night and Winky Pop. We would surf there, and I would go down every single weekend. Not in winter. I'm not that tough, but in summer every weekend. And if I wasn't surfing, we would go down there anyway in winter and just hang out. I spent so much of my youth down in that part of the world.
Well, there'll be a few people who are probably standing on the beach with you on those days back in the 60s that will be coming along to see you either at Torquay next week or at Geelong the following week. I'm assuming that people can find tickets to both events on your website. Is that where they go?
Oh, don't ask me. I've got no idea. I imagine you'd Google the event and that might come up with where you get the tickets. Yeah, no one gives me information like that. I don't. I'm a mushroom. Yeah.
And of course, you probably don't need to buy a ticket. You probably get in for free.
Sometimes I've been stopped at the door a couple of times.
Oh, okay.
Last weekend when we did a Capretto's gig, that's with Jack Jones and Ray Thistlethwaite and myself and Daryl.
Yeah.
I turned and the guy says, "You can't park there. Move your car." And I said, "Oh, well, where do I go? I'm from the band." He went, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." He said, "Leave the car there. It's all right."
And he's probably getting so much mileage out of going to work and saying, guess what I did on the weekend? I told Russell Morris he could shove his car. He'd be very popular with his workmates, I would have thought.
We became good friends at the end of the night. His name was Chris. He was a big bouncer, big tall guy, and he was a lovely chap. So, yeah.
Well, I tell you what I'll do, given that we are recording this in advance, between now and when we actually play this interview on the radio, I will find out where people can buy tickets and I'll put it on our Facebook page, because an opportunity to see Russell Morris live is a great thing to do, folks, if you haven't had the opportunity to do so. And don't go, he's one of those guys, a golden oldie, that, he just play the old hits. It is a really, really good night, and both the event next Saturday at Torquay and the event on Saturday week at the Palais, I can guarantee you will have a great time. Russell, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're literally flying all over Australia at the moment, but to take some time out to talk to one bloke on the Two Blokes Chatting radio show, greatly appreciated.
Mate, Neil, it's always a great pleasure talking to you, and I hope to catch up with you soon.
Thanks, mate. We'll talk soon.